My name is Amish Kadakia, and today I'll be presenting my cybersecurity awareness presentation. So the two primary cybersecurity issues that I'll be discussing are phishing and insider threats. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about phishing. Phishing is the most common type of social engineering attack that's used to trick people into providing sensitive information. This sensitive information can include user credentials, bank account information, or social security information, and can later be used to commit identity theft, credit card theft, or even access a user's social media pages as well as their private databases. Phishing is often done through email, text, and websites that appear to be legitimate, however, have a malicious intent in the background. A phishing email or phishing attack also includes some sort of sense of urgency to prompt a user to act quickly in providing their sensitive information. So with my research, I gathered four primary facts that I felt were important to this specific awareness training. So in total, 4.9 million phishing cases were seen in 2023. These 4.9 million phishing cases led to a total of $10.3 billion in losses. And 43% of all cybersecurity attacks are phishing attacks. This shows that majority of cybersecurity attacks are phishing, and the need for mitigation is extremely important for all corporations, large or small. And lastly, the financial services industry is most impacted by phishing. And this is most likely because financial companies have a lot of sensitive financial information as well as personal information that can be used in different types of attacks. Now, as for the phishing mitigation, there are four primary steps that I've identified to mitigate for phishing. The first step is verifying the source. And a lot of different types of senders can be verified by looking at the specific sender, the email that it's coming from, as well as different types of phone numbers, names that are attached. It's very important to verify that the source is credible, and it's not just some sort of malicious intent. Next, being cautious of links. A lot of phishing attacks include certain types of hyperlinks that, when clicked, include some sort of virus or take you to a malicious website. So it's important to hover over a link and make sure that it is a credible link, and one that does not look like it's malicious. The third step is multi-factor authentication. It's important to use multi-factor authentication because if a hacker gains access to a user's credentials, then they would be required to provide a different type of authorization to access that specific user's website or database or private information. So it's important to implement multi-factor authentication to prevent a phishing attack from affecting an individual. And lastly, it's important to identify and report these type of phishing instances to the correct authorities. And in most cases, that is a cybersecurity team on site. Now, the second issue that I'll be discussing is insider threats. Insider threats are security breaches that come from within an organization, and this can include employees, contractors, or any employee inside of an organization that has access to that organization's database. There are three primary types of insider threats. The first one is malicious insider, and that is basically an employee or a specific contractor might have a malicious intent towards a company and wants to fire back at that company. The second type of insider threat is unintentional insider, and this is when an insider negligently compromises security through either a phishing attack or by mishandling information. And the third insider threat is a compromised insider. And this is essentially when an external actor uses the employee's credentials that they've gathered to perform attacks. So it's not necessarily the employee's fault, but instead the employee is being compromised as an insider threat. The four primary facts that I identified with insider threats are 74% of companies are vulnerable to insider threats. It's very important for companies to mitigate for insider threats because majority of companies are vulnerable. Next, $16.2 million of average loss occurs with insider threats. And this is a huge issue for smaller corporations because they can't necessarily take um, a cut of $1 million for each insider threat attack. The third statistic is 55% of insider threats occur due to negligence. And this is important because negligence can be mitigated for and easily reduced through employee training and awareness. And lastly, similarly to phishing attacks, the financial services industry is most impacted by insider threats due to the nature of this industry and the fact that they have so much private and confidential information within their databases. So now, as for insider threat mitigation, there are four steps that I've identified to mitigate for insider threats. The first one is access control. An intern should not necessarily have the most access to confidential and sensitive files. Instead, each employee should be given specific access into whatever is necessary to complete their job or task that's required of them. Next, employee training. Employee training and awareness will help reduce that negligence factor of insider threats. The third step is using multi-factor authentication, and this can reduce the total number of hackers that might be able to access an unauthorized database because they would have to be required to provide two or more different types of authentications. And lastly, an incident response plan. An incident response plan must be implemented because in the event that an insider threat does occur, the cybersecurity team has an exact plan and framework to act accordingly to keep their systems running and make sure that information is not being compromised.